Here we go.
It's got everything. A shocking death, superstar victim, and this cloud of intrigue and suspicion that hasn't lifted in 63 years. 63 years exactly. That is when Marilyn Monroe was found dead in her bed in Los Angeles, and of what authorities would call a deliberate overdose of sleeping pills. Probable suicide is what they called it. End of story? Was it? I say that because the junior coroner who was tasked with Marilyn's autopsy is still around and still wondering whether that's really what happened to her. And then, a life-saving device versus a drug designed to kill. The state of Tennessee today carried out the nation's most controversial execution of this year. Well, so far anyway. That of a 69-year-old triple murderer with a device in his chest to shock his unstable heart back into normal rhythm. The man's lawyers,
Joe, go past this shit,
had argued that the implant would shock him incessantly. The doctor, who's written extensively on medical ethics and the role physicians play, if any, in capital punishment. Are you concerned? We'll talk about it. Also ahead, breaking news from that week-long manhunt caught this morning in Jackson. So 63 years ago today, August 5th, 1962, the world...
Sorry about that.
woke up to the shocking news that Marilyn Monroe was dead, and the evidence pointed very strongly to suicide. She'd been found in the overnight hours by her housekeeper, face down on her bed, nude, her hand either resting on or clutching a telephone, and on her nightstand were multiple bottles of pills, including an empty bottle of Nembutal. This is a sleeping pill, and a partially empty bottle of chloral hydrate that is a powerful sedative. The Nembutal prescription was written just 2 days before Marilyn's death, and just 1 day before, a psychiatrist noted she was, quote, very despondent. Okay. Now, investigators would find out that the movie star, the pinup bombshell, had attempted suicide before by swallowing pills, but apparently had changed her mind. Those other times she had called for help. So you might be saying, okay, where's the mystery? I don't get it. Well, the coroner assigned to Marilyn's autopsy, a recent hire named Thomas Noguchi, found no visual evidence of pills in Marilyn's stomach or small intestine. The toxicology report showed fatal levels of both Nembutal and chloral hydrate in her system. So how did they get there? Were they injected? Noguchi went over every centimeter of Marilyn's body with a magnifying glass, didn't find any needle marks. He wanted to test Marilyn's stomach and other organs, but the toxicologist didn't see the point and threw them out. And why exactly was a very junior coroner working this very high-profile case in the first place? Why didn't the chief coroner take it? I mean, he was more than happy to do the press conference and announce the results. Now, eventually, Noguchi would be chief coroner and a superstar in the true crime world himself. He oversaw the autopsies of Robert F. Kennedy, John Belushi, many other stars, but never stopped wondering whether the official
Joe,
word
mute
of
the
Marilyn
mic. You
Monroe
make
was
too much noise.
All right.
What are you doing over there?
Ruby did something. I'll blame it on her. Welcome in, everyone. Why don't you do that? I thought that would set the table nicely. Although
No
I
more
forgot.
cold opens for Joe. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. This is the Lone Gunman Podcast. I think episode number 356, Between Two Brothers, not Ferns. All that is a great show. So tonight we're going to be talking about Marilyn Monroe and her relationship with the Kennedy brothers. And the reason this is kind of topical is August the 5th, 4th, was the anniversary of her passing, along with new news, maybe not so new, but for those of us that had been around the conspiracy world for a little while. But Thomas Noguchi, the guy that did her autopsy, recently came out and made some pretty fantastic claims, and he claims that he still stands by to this day at his age of 96 or 98, however old that dude is.
98,
So,
I think. Yeah.
He's old, but still with it. And he's the guy that did her autopsy. So if anybody would know that there's something suspicious about her death, it would be him. And the claim, that her nightstand was filled with all these pill bottles that the cops are pointing to, like, hey, look at these. This is probably how she died, right? The problem with that theory is that there was no glass of water anywhere near her bed. That's red flag number one. Red flag number two is that there was no pill capsule residue found in her stomach or her small intestines, meaning that she had not ingested an overdose load of pills because they would have still been inside of her. Now, I don't blame Thomas Noguchi for going over every inch of her body with a microscope, because I might have done the same thing, but, she is dead at this point, but whatever the case may be. People can hide injection sites in between their fingers, in between their toes, places you may not think of. Some are done so clean that they just don't leave a mark unless you're like really microscopically examining, some of the most basic or some of the most popular injection sites, such as, the corner of your elbow, the top of your hand, the top of your feet, anywhere you can find a good vein. But there was also some other problems with her autopsy, and they found discoloration and bruising in her anus and her colon, indicative of some kind of penetration, if you will. Now, not this kind of penetration, Joe. Not the New Orleans penetration force. They were not behind everything. But the t-shirts are now live in the store.
No pun intended. They weren't behind everything.
Yes, you can head over to the store now and get your Nopin New Orleans penetration force shirts. That's our cheap grift for the night. Maybe. Now, also imperative to the story about Marilyn Monroe is, of course, the infatuation that she had with JFK, and we'll get into some of this stuff that they did together, the catting around together. Her code name when she called the White House was Miss Green. She was writing letters to the White House, calling the White House, and JFK would meet her at various places. He even snuck her onto Air Force One, disguised as one of his brunettes in his secretary pool. Yeah. Wow. So they definitely had a hot thing going in the early 60s. I believe that, they were pretty much on and off, whatever you want to call it, 1960, 61. I think he was trying to get away from it in 62. And the story is that RFK was trying to intervene and kind of run interference, if you will. And, and he got swept up into the Marilyn Monroe,
into the mix.
Yeah. And hey, can't blame the man.
No.
Especially when you have Ethel at home birthing your 20 kids. But, and, it is a fact that Bobby Kennedy was at Marilyn Monroe's house the day before she died. Now, the FBI had been surveilling Marilyn, I think, since the mid-50s due to her marriage with, who was that playwright guy?
His name was, I believe it was Arthur Miller.
Arthur Miller, that's right. And he was a supposed communist or communist-leaning sympathizer. And she married him, so, that's a little suspect. So the FBI was definitely keeping tabs on what her and Arthur Miller were up to and doing.
Yeah.
And there's a whole document trail to support this surveillance of them, including a trip Marilyn made to Mexico City. I believe it was in early 1962.
Yep.
And all of these things together lead up to some very bad timing for the Kennedy brothers. The fact that RFK was in fact at her house the day before, on August the 4th, the day before she died, as late as 3:30. Now, there's various accounts of what happened, of what actually happened that night. And you have eyewitness reports from her live-in housemaid, her psychologist, neighbors, another handyman that was doing some tile work in her kitchen. And you have all these various stories about what kind of happened. And I did come across a story seemingly substantiated by some good sources, and we'll get into that as well, that she was actually taken from her home around 10:30 that night in an ambulance, and she passed away on the way to the hospital. And they freaked out. They didn't know what to do and took her back home, staged the scene, waited a little while, and then everything got rolling from there.
Interesting.
Yeah. So there's all kinds of theories and reasons why things may have been done. And it involves the mafia. It involves the CIA. It involves the Kennedy brothers. But where does the truth lie? And that's what we're going to try to figure out tonight. But before we do, let's, Joe, welcome in the large cadre of our friends who have come to hear the show, if you will, please.
Of course, sir. And as you can notice, I am in the outdoors. I am in the Casco Mountains. And yeah, I decided to change my setting to the outside during this beautiful night. And that is what I was running back and forth to do. But I did see Tiny was here first in the comment section, although it doesn't show me her first comment. So I definitely want to give her the credit. Tiny, welcome. Paul Cummings is here this evening.
Welcome,
hello,
Tiny.
Mr. Scott. Yeah, he was supposed to attend the Monster Bash Ghost Film Festival, but wasn't feeling well. So I'm here tonight, and we'll go tomorrow. Yes,
Well,
you had mentioned that.
Glad you're not feeling well, and you're here with us this evening. No, yeah. we hope you feel better, but we're glad you.
Yes, 100%. And I remember him mentioning that on Wednesday during our members only show. Mr. Trey, pound that like. Yes, sir.
Thanks, Trey.
Pound it like tonight's theme. Early,
yes.
Early possible comment of the night. Tiny, yeah, there you are. Rocket Queen Colleen, hello.
Hey.
As she's saying hi to Trey, and as everyone, including the double B, is saying hello to Scott. Glad to see you here. As you know, it is a party up in the chat.
On that note, real quick, Joe, before you move on too quickly, Brandon, just for you, my friend, up in the store, your very own design. There you go.
Whoa.
The double B. Bicep pose with David Ferry on deck. Don't turn around the other way, Brandon. It's now live in the store for a limited time only, just long enough for Brandon to order some shit, and I put it on a bunch of different products. You don't have to buy them all, just whatever you like. Yeah. Or if you don't like it, tell me and I'll figure something else out.
Yes.
But Brandon is our number one, so he gets his own merch. And we should probably say too, Joe, about tonight's topic,
Shall.
I believe was kind of suggested by one of our super spies, Paula, in her passing comment. So with the timing of the new news, with the timing of her passing, and with Paula's suggestion, we decided, you know what, let's talk about this, because I don't think we've ever done it on the Lone Gunman podcast. Really went after the whole Maryland thing. So
yeah,
you're welcome.
Yes. Definitely a perk of being a super spy. You get to recommend shows. We might not always do it, but and you know, I've kind of discounted this for so long, Rob, like Marilyn Monroe thing, but some of the things we're going to get into is pretty sus, making me think, making me like think a little twice, a couple of thrice.
And on a side note, on our book review show, look, we love you guys. We hope you are enjoying the book reviews. But please stop with the suggestions, because we're not going to listen. We want to do books that at least one of us has read before or own and are familiar with. So while we appreciate the suggestions, just know that we're always going to be picking books that are sitting on our shelves or we've read before or something like that. And most of the time they're just done at random. There is no order to the chaos when it comes to choosing a book. And Joe will tell you that. He'd be like, why'd you pick that one? I said, I closed my eyes and I walked over to the bookshelf and I pointed at one. That's why. So just a side note for the book reviews, but we appreciate the suggestions, but just know that, we're kind of doing our own thing with that.
Yeah.
But thank you for watching and hearing, but yes.
Yeah, for sure. And at least to start, we'd like to have read them. Sally, A up, Chucks. Not sure what that means. That might be some Cockney.
Like the shoes, Chuck Taylor's. That must be what she's saying.
Paul is here. Thank you for you, cousin's peace, and for your comfort, Colleen. Okay, just talking to Colleen.
Sorry to hear about your movie.
Yes.
Our condolences. Yes.
Sir Shot a Lot. Hello, Joe B and Triple B. Hello, everyone in the chat. Hello to you, sir. Thank you for joining us. And
what's up?
Anthony Thrip, waking up in Australia.
For all your carpet needs, hit him up. Quest Carpet. If you live in Australia, I doubt they ship carpet around the world, but you never know.
Yeah. Well, we might get a description of. I'm like hesitant to make these jokes. We might get a carpet description of a different kind of carpet from the autopsy of Marilyn Monroe. I'm bad. Paula says, Cyril Wecht says Marilyn Monroe's death was by suicide. Yeah, we're
opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one.
Yeah. South to west, Joe fixing a drink. No, I wasn't actually, but I already had one made. But oof, I changed locations like 2 minutes before. It was a risky maneuver, but
it's the W.
It's freaking hot in this house, and there's no air conditioning. The house is 100 years old. I'm literally on top of a mountain, and there's no wind. So I had to move. Let's see who else. Timothy Ryan, we already got him. Just gonna comment this from Colleen. Noguchi says he thinks it was an enema due to rectal discoloration. Interesting. Well, I have the whole autopsy. We will get there. eventually.
Yes, there's a lot of you here tonight, and we are happy about it.
Yes, and I think I'm going on. Mr. Daniel Plantagenet.
Joe just butchered your name, sir.
I know. I'm. To be fair,
Plantagenet.
Plantagenet. To be
Yes.
fair, I butcher everything, so it's not.
He does. Don't take it personally.
Yes. And Paul, PSVLC. Howdy, everyone. But Joe B, who skipped me last week, even though I showed up early. Well, Paul, like, not all the comments from like an hour or two before the show up in our Restream app, for what it's worth. So it's not.
Excuses.
It's true. I mean,
One more to sit in.
Tiny was the first one in, and her chat wasn't there. I asked, yes, so this is how the show came about. I asked Joe B if there's any documentation for the JFK Marilyn Monroe affair, or if it's all tantalizing bullshit. Glad the guys are bringing the goods. And
like we do.
Yes. And Mr. Mike Segrest Jr., rare I get to catch y'all live.
Jr.
Segrest.
Yes.
I butcher everything. Thank you. We are glad you are catching us as well live too. And of course, Turin Horse. It's French.
Parlez-vous français, monsieur?
Yes. And Garden and Guns slipping in with her weekly free P. Diddy comment, which I think she's done a few times now. But I respect that.
Let's keep him behind bars for now.
Yeah. All right. So we started, Rob, with my cold opening that went terribly, and I apologize for that. But I figure what we'll start with is some of the first FBI documents that got Monroe what got her surveilled, right? How does this actress get to be on the FBI's radar, right?
Yes.
And you touched on it briefly. Oh, wow. Well,
holy shnikes.
I'll wait for your sound bite.
Why is it so low? Hold on.
It sounded fine to me.
Normally it's loud as hell. Maybe it's just I turned it down on my headphones.
Yeah. The double B coming through like he always does, gifting not
Good
5,
Lord.
but 10 membership spook levels. And wow.
Congratulations to Kevin Hardy, Turin Horse. Let's see who else here. Bombada. Gary that's too many goddamn vowels in your name, bro. Gary O. Wilt 333, James Flanagan, Sonic Popo, Speed Pig, Lisa Wolf, IntelliX. Wow. Thanks, Brandon.
Yes. Thank you.
What that means for you people who just got that spooky membership is you get an extra free show the last week of the month on Wednesday. You are entitled to come to our members only for it's a spook perk. We give you one free show just to see what you're missing every Wednesday for the covert operators and above, and what they get to enjoy 4 weeks out of the month or 5, whatever the case may be. Just some extra shows we do. And so, yeah, check it out. And like Tiny says, if you haven't subscribed yet, hit the fucking button.
Please.
Much appreciated. Please. Yes. So, yeah, thanks, Brandon. You rock.
Thank you so much, sir. You were the man. So, this is kind of like a brief timeline I put together like a couple minutes before the show. So Marilyn Monroe, rising star, really starting in the early to mid 1950s, 1953, 54. In August 1955, Monroe starts being surveilled by the FBI for being a suspected communist sympathizer. And this pretty much goes on for
The rest of her life.
6.5 years. Yeah, exactly. The rest of her life, literally. So I skipped a little bit of time there, but it's pretty much the same.
She made movies and posed for Playboy.
Yes,
and banged some ladies.
yes, and there's you sent it to me, Rob. There's, hundreds of FBI documents that detail this through 56, 57, 58, 59, and they're all just saying she met with this person. This person was an alleged communist. This
Very
communist lead. Yeah. So I then skipped to February 62, which is when Monroe visits Mexico City, which caused another little stir. In May 1962, that is when Monroe sings the very famous "Happy Birthday, Mr. President" to Kennedy at Madison Square Garden.
And let me add here, Joe.
Yeah.
Caroline, our beloved Caroline, once sang me "Happy Birthday" just to me in my DMs one year for my birthday, and it was awesome. It was in the style of Marilyn Monroe too. I may have melted a little bit, but that's okay.
I would not blame you. She has an amazing voice, and that is a pretty high honor, sir.
Yes, it is.
Pretty. I am a little jealous. I'm not gonna lie.
Unfortunately, she's in Canada and happily married, so
yes.
What's a boy to do? But I greatly appreciate it. It's best birthday present I got.
So was JFK.
I can relate to how JFK must have felt.
In July 62, Kennedy dines privately with Monroe, and that is at his brother-in-law's property. We'll get into that.
Peter Lawford.
Yep. And, less than a month later, she's dead, right? She passes away August 4th, and the autopsy is August 5th. So,
that's one important thing out of this timeline, Joe.
The RFK the day before.
Well, that, and a week before her death, the whole Cal Neva incident.
Yes,
I think may have had something to do with her passing.
Okay, and you have stuff on that you mentioned, right?
I do.
Okay, good, because I do not know much about that whatsoever. So, and
what's the story?
So, let's go to the earliest FBI document referring to Marilyn Monroe. She is the subject. Information concerning from the FBI field office in Washington to the director, J. Edgar Hoover. Blank advised August 12th, 1955. There's so many redactions in these documents, bro. Still. And that is kind of sus. Like, are you still protecting informants at this point? Anyways. Blank, Reuters news agency contacted blank at the Soviet embassy. Blank inquired of blank if Marilyn Monroe had applied for a visa. Stated that the Soviet embassy received a letter from her manager requesting application for a visa, and it is now under consideration. Blank also stated that blank spoke to the cultural attaché about it. Later that afternoon, blank advised a reporter of the New York Post contacted blank and inquired regarding Marilyn Monroe's application for visa forms. Blank stated that the letter requesting the forms was signed by her manager, and the request is under consideration. Blank stated the letter was received 8/12. This document is 8/16. And of course, as we've talked about, the flow of documents, you can kind of go along with the timeline. 3 days later, on August 19th, 1955, you have another informant who has furnished reliable. This is from Mr. Dennis Flynn, Director, Office of Security, State Department. Okay. An informant to J. Gahuva. An informant who has furnished reliable information in the past advised on August 12th, 1955, that blank Reuters news agency contacted blank Soviet Embassy, Washington, in answer to an inquiry from blank, advised that the Soviet Embassy, Washington, D.C., received a letter from Marilyn Monroe's manager requesting an application for a visa to visit the USSR. According to blank, this matter is now under consideration. Attaché at the Soviet Embassy spoke to about this matter. So, a year later, I guess she's really getting hot and heavy with Miller at this point, right? They start surveilling him as well, but they actually started surveilling her first. And what I think about this is that, Rob, is that this Scafuza, Arthur Miller, wasn't really relevant until he got with Marilyn Monroe. Now, when you're with one of the most popular and famous actresses and women in the world, now all of a sudden your possible sympathies or views are an issue, because you could have.
Well, he was kind of a big deal as a playwright. Not in the like movie star sense, but he was kind of a big deal.
Right. No, I'm not saying it wasn't a big
Mary
deal.
and her definitely put him more in the spotlight.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Right.
I want to say he got blacklisted for, as being like a communist in Hollywood.
He might have. I wouldn't doubt it at all. Definitely. Subject: Miller is the new husband of Marilyn Monroe. This is October 1956. He arrived in the United Kingdom together with his wife some months ago, and according to blank, appears to be contemplating a prolonged stay in England. Blank states that the only information they have concerning him is that which appeared in numerous newspaper reports, and that they would be most grateful for any background or security information that the Bureau may have on him. So they don't really have much right now on him. And this goes on, Rob, from 1956 until 1962. Consistently. And I could have put in 50 PowerPoint slides of different reports that read like that. Marilyn Monroe met with this person who's suspected of being a communist sympathizer, who's part of the American Communist League, or this and that. It was so consistent for so long. And the only reason I think is that would happen is because they knew that as one of the most popular women in the world, if she came out for communism, that would be a problem for them and the United States government. Now I know how Marilyn felt. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit in the because of time, and we're going to go to her FBI document about her visit to Mexico City. We're in late February 1962. Subject: Frederick Vanderbilt Field, who was part of the Vanderbilt family and a known, I guess, communist or Marxist or something. Redacted, protect this redaction, who has furnished reliable information in the past, advised on 2/27/62 that the movie actress Marilyn Monroe is presently visiting in Taxco, Guerrero, Mexico, and is being escorted during this visit by the subject. So he's kind of escorting her during this whole trip to Mexico. This is a few days later. The following information was received from blank and blank, who have furnished reliable information in the past. Extreme care should be used in reporting if any of this information to avoid disclosure of sources who were associating closely with subject Marilyn Monroe during her visit to Mexico. The source advised that Marilyn Monroe, the movie actress, was recently in Mexico on vacation, and while in Mexico, associated closely with certain members of the American Communist Group in Mexico, the ACGM. Source characterized the ACGM as a loose association of a predominantly social nature of present and or past members of the Communist Party USA and their friends and associates who share a common sympathy for communism and the Soviet Union. They advised that during the course of this visit, a mutual infatuation arose between subject Marilyn Monroe and blank, redacted. The situation caused considerable dismay among Miss Monroe's entourage and also among the ACGM. So it sounds there, Rob, that she hooked up with a commie.
A rich commie.
Yeah. And we'll get into that. On 2/21/62, blank visited subject in her suite at Hotel Continental Hilton at 5 p.m. The visit was arranged through New York friends and was based on his former friendship with Arthur Miller, her former husband. So she's divorced by him at this point in 62. He stayed for about an hour and she arranged to go with blank on blank Tula, Mexico for the day. Toluca. Subject arrived in Mexico on 2/19/62 from Miami. Her entry into Mexico reportedly was arranged by Frank Sinatra through former President Miguel Alemán. She was accompanied by an agent, a hairdresser, and an interior decorator. Because you gotta bring in the interior decorator with you, Rob.
Well, yeah. You
Obvious.
got a match.
Yeah. Those hotel suites in Mexico, you gotta, do a little remodel. The latter was identified as Eunice Churchill, a widow about 65 from Los Angeles. Churchill said her husband was a violent trade unionist who was a functionary in the furniture workers section of the AF of L Carpenters Union, who died 4 or 5 years ago. She identified him as a labor pioneer, blah, blah, blah. According to Churchill, the subject was much disturbed by Arthur Miller's marriage on 12/20/62. So he had gotten remarried and feels like a negated sex symbol. Churchill said that subject has a lot of leftist rubbed off from Miller. Subject reportedly spent some time with Robert Kennedy at the home of Peter Lawfords in Hollywood. Subject reportedly challenged Mr. Kennedy, Monroe, on some points proposed to her by Miller. Subject was acquainted with blank background and principles and expressed curiosity as his relationship with the blank family, maybe Kennedy family. On 2/24/62, subject traveled to Mexico to visit the native market. She was accompanied by blank, blank, blank. It became clear that a relationship was developing between subject and blank, and considerable concern was expressed by a lot of people. Now we are going to forward to July of 1962, and this is about 2 months after the Happy Birthday, Mr. President that Monroe sung to JFK in May of 1962. And subject to director J. Edgar Hoover Subject: Marilyn Monroe. Security matter. Blank and blank, who have furnished reliable information in the past, blank, were in contact with subject and her entourage on several occasions. Subject said she had lunch at Peter Lawford's with President Kennedy just a few days previously. She was very pleased, and she had asked the president about socially significant questions concerning the morality of atomic testing and the future of the youth of America. So you can see, Rob, why some people in the intelligence community is concerned if she's having conversations with him about atomic energy, right? Atomic testing.
Yeah, let's tame what else she's been accused of talking to him about here, and we'll get into.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. She's rarely been asked by Lawford to appear at the president's birthday party.
Now, you know what, Joe?
Yeah.
So Peter Lawford is John F. Kennedy's brother-in-law. All right. I think Peter Lawford is married to one of the Kennedy sisters at this point, I do believe. Or he's somehow in with the family, part of the family. The ultimate, like, I gotta figure that Lawford knew that they were boning, and for Lawford to invite her to his birthday party in Washington D.C. to sing happy birthday to him the way she did, knowing Jackie's there, like, that's kind of fucked up for your boy to do to you. You know what I mean? Like, Peter Lawford's putting him in a very awkward position. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Is he stirring the pot?
I don't know. Like, that's a big time, like, rib. Like, I'm sure he had a laugh about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got you, motherfucker. JFK was like, "You dirty son of a bitch."
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. You never know. I mean, to understand the inner dynamics of a family and family dynamics, you would never know unless you're there, right?
Yeah.
She had just offered the use of her apartment in New York and said blah 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 something. And then, so let's see, the date of this document is, there is something written over it, but it looks like July 13th or 18th on the top right corner there. This is another, I guess it's something that is like a package confirmed notice, right? Attached contains info received from blank informants. Informants advised Marilyn Monroe attended a luncheon at the residence of Peter Lawford with President Kennedy. Informants characterized Monroe's views as positively and concisely leftist. So, I mean, they're keeping a big eye on her. They have a ton of different informants around her. Mexico, everywhere she goes.
Big old bad bombs on everybody, do you?
Well, I think that's what they were concerned about. That this leftist Monroe is going to get into the leftist Kennedy's ear even more, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the only reason why you would waste so much taxpayer money on.
Well, you know how it was back then. I mean, they were hunting communists down like crazy.
Right.
You know, it was the height of the Cold War, very anti-communist. You know, the FBI was doing this shit all over. And, her writing the Soviet embassy to obtain a visa to go to Russia for whatever reason, even though it was probably innocuous. I mean, at this point, she's a probably worldwide famous movie star.
Correct.
And I'm sure some rich dude in the USSR was like, I'll pay you $2 million to come over here and make an appearance and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Can't blame her.
No, I mean, Moscow is a historical city. If you have the money that Monroe does and you're getting famous, you want to travel the world, you have your manager say, I want to go to Russia, apply for a visa. But this sets off this whole, chain reaction of surveillance that lasted until the end of her life. And that just kind of portrays how much the the communists, how much everyone was scared of the dirty commies back then, right?
Yeah, and it wasn't just the mail either. They also were bugging her telephone as well, as we'll get
Right.
into here a little later.
Right. So she dies about a month after she dines with President Kennedy. I'm going to skip to I'm going to save the autopsy for later. But even way past her death, whenever any article or book comes out relating to Monroe and in relation to the Kennedys, it stirs up a whole nother thing of documents. and this is an example from a little less than a year from after she died. Walter Winchell's column, July 8th, 1963, issue of the New York Mirror, contained the statement, "Photo plays current article on the man who killed Marilyn practically names him. In accordance with your request, there follows a brief review of the information concerning Marilyn Monroe in the August 1963 issue of Photo Play magazine." On page 10, a column by Winchell begins, which states that Monroe's death and the married man responsible for it, end quote, was still getting considerable space in the foreign press. Winchell says that the author of the articles, which are syndicated in papers on the continent, claims he was personally interviewed many people in Hollywood and New York who were aware of Miss Monroe's problems and claimed his sensational story was big news. Let me skip a little. Article begins on page 52 under a caption, "1 year later, Marilyn Monroe's killer still at large." A review of this article reveals Winchell's claim that it practically names the man who killed Marilyn is nothing more than a blank, redacted plug for a cheap magazine. Actually, the article comes nowhere near identifying anyone. The only clues to the identity of the alleged married man who had an affair with Marilyn and, quote, caused her suicide when he rejected her could apply to any number of prominent individuals. So this article essentially gives clues of who this married man could be and doesn't name anyone. And that's all I'm going to say. The article also states that Miss Monroe's housekeeper has, quote, vanished, and that her publicity agent, Pat Newcomb, is now working in Washington, D.C. Her second husband, Joe DiMaggio, of course, the famous baseball player for the New York Yankees, is the only one who remains faithful in that the man who killed Miss Monroe is still at large and can never be arrested. So interesting is that Joe DiMaggio kind of kept on this trail, I guess, before he died, trying to figure out who killed her, even though I don't think they were married at the time that she died. But interesting. Nice little baseball reference there. And then in 1965, here we go, to continue with DiMaggio, Blank advises that on previous date, February 1965, he in company with Blank from Blank has visited Blank. Bro, the amount of redactions is crazy for a celebrity. Was in an office in New York City, and at that address had exhibited a motion picture which depicted deceased actress Marilyn Monroe committing a perverted act upon an unknown male. So here's a document saying, this guy saying, hey, I saw essentially like a porno tape of Marilyn Monroe. According to Blank, claimed that former baseball star Joseph DiMaggio, her second husband, in the past had offered him $25,000 for this film, it being the only one in existence, but that Blank had refused the offer. The above is being furnished to the FBI lab, blah, 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 blah. So I have the autopsy next. I'm going to stop there and let you take it over.
All right. So there's been a lot made of the conspiracy theories surrounding her death since she died, some 63 years ago. Damn it, Trey. Threw me a curveball there.
That's pretty good.
You know, I think every couple years or so, you'll see a new book being written. You'll see a new documentary coming out, new magazine articles claiming new evidence or new witness testimony and this and that. And like we said earlier, you know, this year wasn't any different with Noguchi coming out. And, you know, Anthony Summers, who wrote the JFK conspiracy book called Conspiracy, also heavily investigated the death of Marilyn Monroe and managed to interview a lot of witnesses and obscure items and this and that. And when we did our book review this week, we did it on Matrix for Assassination by Richard Gilbride. And I briefly mentioned in there that the first chapter in his book is actually on the death of Marilyn Monroe. And I'll get into what his theory is, because it's a little different than any you might have heard. Hence him thinking out of the box, which I can appreciate. Don't know if he's right or not. And again, I don't know the truth about what happened to Marilyn Monroe. You know, you can only take all of this in and parse out all of the material and take it all into consideration and come to your own conclusions about what you think might have happened with Marilyn Monroe. I mean, obviously, when you examine her life, you know, you got to kind of feel for the woman. I mean, she was definitely taken advantage of by Hollywood, by producers, by directors, by, you know, the big studio executives. Of course, you know, her story is not unique. For women in that time.
Right. Think like Harvey Weinstein of today, but even worse because it was in the 50s and 60s.
Right. You know, the casting couch was definitely a little dirtier back then, you know. But again, at that time, that's just how it was. And a lot of these Hollywood starlets knew that. And that's why a lot of them, you know, came in crashing on the scene and then went fading out, burning out, dying young. And I could understand if Marilyn felt like a, you know, over time felt like a used piece of meat. You know, I think by the time she died at 35 or 36, she'd already been married 3 or 4 times, which is crazy. You know, and she came from a very innocent background. I think she grew up in like the Midwest or something, and didn't have a very good childhood. I think she was a foster child or something like that, you know. And you know, her story is one of those, you know, that a lot of people can relate to, and you could probably understand if, you know, she wanted to legitimately, you know, unalive herself. You could understand why, you know, because at some point, you know, the fame and the money doesn't mean much if you're not happy. And the way she was treated by these men in her life is atrocious. Let me just put that out there.
100%.
As we'll get into, but let's examine a couple of the theories, if you will, about what happened to her. And I'm not endorsing any of these, because a lot of people have a lot of different theories, but here's one that came out in 1982.
And you are right, Rob. She did spend most of her childhood in foster homes and orphanages before marrying her first husband, James Doherty, at the age of 16.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm sure she was passed around in these foster homes and treated very horribly and endured things that no child should have to endure.
100%.
And, you know, things just didn't get any better for her, despite, you know, her fame, you know. And again, this is back then. She's a woman. I mean, yes, she had money, but she wasn't getting paid what she should have been getting paid, for the star power that she brought to the movies and Hollywood in general. So keep that in mind as well. Yeah. But so this is something written by Ronald Clark, no relation to me.
Your boy.
Yes. 20 years after she died, Marilyn Monroe is still allowed no peace. Rewards of up to $1,000 have been offered for her so-called Red Diary, and a private detective believes she was killed by a dissident faction of the CIA. And a former coroner's aide claims he was coerced into signing her death certificate. So let's parse that real quick. All right, the so-called Red Diary is, of course, Marilyn Monroe's diary, right? Mm-hmm. Which, much like shit. Well, what was that woman's name? The other one that died on the towpath in Georgetown. Wife of the guy.
Mary
Pinchot Meyer. Yeah. Cord
Meyer's wife. Yeah.
So much like her and her diary that ended up going missing, that there was a big to do about with James Angleton and all of that, and Ben Bradley. Marilyn Monroe's diary was never found, allegedly. And I believe Noguchi came forward and claims that he was coerced into signing her death certificate the way that he did back then. And this is in 1982, so I don't know how true that is. Robert Slatzer, author of The Life and Curious Death of Marilyn Monroe, published in 1974, told reporters that in the last summer of her life, Miss Monroe was having an affair with Senator Kennedy. That would be RFK. He said Miss Monroe showed him her diary, which included details of her relationship with Kennedy, who was then U.S. Attorney General, and information about the CIA. Slatzer said Kennedy broke off his relationship with Miss Monroe 2 weeks before her death. Quote, "This was a woman who couldn't take rejection," Slatzer said. He said on the night before she died, she told him by telephone if she did not hear from him soon, that she would call a press conference and blow the lid off of everything, which of course would not be a good look for the Kennedy brothers, as one of them is currently president of the United States. Right. Michael Spiriglio, a member of a leading Los Angeles private detective agency who said he has been investigating Miss Monroe's death for 10 years now, offered a $10,000 reward for the diary. He said he has evidence, which he did not specify, that the diary included entries of Kennedy telling Miss Monroe of a CIA plot to kill Cuban leader Fidel Castro, which is interesting.
Very.
Yeah, because I don't think that was proper knowledge until the Church Committee in 1975. Unless you were in it. He told a press conference he'd uncovered enough sources of a plot organized by the CIA to kidnap Miss Monroe and take her to a safe house in Virginia, where the CIA has its headquarters. And again, I don't know how accurate any of this information is. I'm just relaying. The faction intended to make known later Miss Monroe had suffered a nervous breakdown, so no one would accept what she had said. But he said he believed that what he called a dissident CIA faction got to Miss Monroe first and killed her. Dr. Theodore Curfey, who was the Los Angeles coroner when Miss Monroe died, has disputed claims that she was murdered. These stories have circulated for years, he said. There is no point to them, end quote. A CIA spokesman dismissed the murder claims as false and absurd, but the Monroe mystique continues. Now, of course, that's just a random CIA spokesman, whoever that may be, like they have a shit ton of them. Now let's touch a little bit, Joe, on the whole Cal Neva incident, because You said you weren't too familiar with what went on there.
No.
And of course, this allegedly occurred a week or so before her death and could possibly account for the injuries to her anus. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
Hang on. I think I got that backwards.
Anthony Thripp said, was she in Mexico with LHO? No, she was in Mexico in 1962, and that's when she died. So
Yes.
that would have been a year before. Jackie was not there, Rocket Queen Colleen says. And I think she's referring to the JFK birthday song. I don't know if I don't think she was pregnant then, but I agree. I don't think she was there. And Sooner Scooter, hello, sir. The coroner said MM had no drug residue in her stomach, didn't he?
He did.
We will get there. Yeah, we're going to show it soon.
All right. So back to Cal Neva. Marilyn allegedly cavorted there with mobsters Sam Giancana, Bugsy Siegel, Skinny D'Amato, Handsome Johnny Rosselli, Frank Sinatra, just to mention a rumored few. It goes on to tell a little bit about the building. So allegedly, there was a sexual romp, which included Marilyn being drugged, plied with drinks, what have you. And they retired to a heart-shaped bed located in one of the Cal Neva lodges there. And she was taken advantage of by multiple people. And allegedly, this tryst was filmed without her consent by these rather famous mobsters and Hollywood people.
Now, Rob, could that have been what the document I read a few minutes ago be referring to? I think it was in 1964 when that guy was like, I saw the film of Monroe doing sexually.
No, I think that was with one person. I think this was
okay.
A lot of dudes at the same time, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Which, like I said, this was a week before she died, and her anus could have been damaged that weekend. It would still be. It could still be traumatized a week later, if you understand what I'm saying.
Right. Especially if it was multiple people.
Yeah. And God knows what they were sticking where.
Fucking poor woman, man. It's all right. Continue.
Now that weekend, allegedly, Joe DiMaggio arrived unannounced and uninvited, under the mistaken impression that Marilyn had been kidnapped and taken there. DiMaggio was not a fan of the people at Cal Neva that weekend or the circumstances those persons created. According to this guy, author C. David Heyman, let's see. Joe and Marilyn argued after she refused to leave with him and returned to Los Angeles, after which Joe departed and Marilyn drank too much, of course, and she ingested so many pills that she was taken to Reno and then returned to Los Angeles by Frank Sinatra's ever-present airplane. Peter Lawford supposedly admitted to Heyman that the lodge featured its share of call girls along with wild, perverted sex parties and excessive drug use, but Lawford asserted according to Heyman, that Marilyn was not a kidnapping victim, but she was a gang R victim. if you know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
From that, let's see. According to one writer, in his vulgar literary effort, Marilyn was R''ed repeatedly by mobsters, prostitutes, and marauding lesbians. Not to mention that she was also photographed and filmed in various indelicate and compromising positions of sexual debasement, both clothed and naked, drunk and drugged. And in yet another lurid account, the writer dismissed the prurient stories of R's, orgies, and lesbianisms, but he replaced the tales of debauchery and excessive sex with tales of a self-administered drug injections. And according to him, Marilyn was ill and constantly ingested deadly pills and alcohol, constantly injected herself with phenobarbital, Nembutal, and Seconal. She was simply a depressed mess of a woman who, like Ray Milland in Billy Wilder's famous movie, experienced a drug and alcohol-induced lost weekend, if you will. She could barely walk, barely dress herself, and seldom appeared in public during her malignant weekend from hell. And according to another literary effort, Marilyn actually attempted to unalive herself that weekend, but was saved by a stomach pump. Her next attempt, however, the following weekend would prove successful, allegedly. But unquestionably, the most bizarre and ludicrous biographical account appertaining to that July weekend arrived courtesy of the former actor, self-proclaimed gangster, and Marilyn's paramour, Gianni Russo, who's, like I said, there was a lot of people there. Okay, a lot. So again, I don't know.
Wow.
I mean, of course, none of the people that were there are going to tell the story.
Do you know who Gianni Russo is?
Who's that?
He was an actor in The Godfather.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me. He just died like very recently.
Pop his picture up.
Yeah. This guy. So he played the Godfather, Marlon Brando's daughter's husband, right? Who sold him out and got brother Sonny killed, right? Him,
Yeah.
right?
He must have just died because I've seen him on a bunch of podcasts.
He just died, like within the last year or two. Yes. Yeah. So that is crazy that he was allegedly possibly there and hanging with Sinatra. Someone said, Rocket Queen Colleen said, Sinatra took her there to this this thing you're referring to.
According to several other people, the entire Calneva episode was arranged by Frank Sinatra and Peter Lawford at the request of Sam Giancana. Mobster, singer, and actor acted with one uniform purpose: to convince Marilyn not to hold a press conference and not to expose the adulterous behavior of the Kennedy brothers. If necessary, they would extort her into compliance by using her drug addiction along with sexual extortion.
Right.
Of course, that old reliable stratagram of personal destruction.
Yeah. The Diddy and Epstein strategy.
Right.
Oof.
And there's also stories that Giancana and like I said, and Sinatra were behind this thing because Giancana wanted to stick it to the Kennedy brothers, literally, by defiling the one woman that they had both had.
Interesting. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah. And again, we've got Johnny Rosselli. I mean, there was a lot of people there.
Wow. Yeah, it was a high profile event, it seems. Actors, mob bosses.
The only woman, for sure.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And I mean, you got to remember, Joe, this is the most famous woman in the world, considered the most beautiful woman in the world. And they got her all to themselves And these aren't just any scafoozas. They are, very famous people in their own rights. And, none of this is getting out. They can do whatever they want to at this point.
Yeah. And now they have blackmail.
Exactly.
Horrible to think about.
Yeah. Let's see here. All right, let's do this one first, and then we'll come back to that one. All right. So back to the mystery around her actual death. So just after 3 a.m., this is the official story, on August 5th, 1962, mere hours after arguing with her supposed lover, then U.S. Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy, at her Brentwood, California estate, Marilyn Monroe's nude, lifeless body was reportedly found by her housekeeper. As the story goes, the glamorous star was surrounded by several bottles of sleeping pills, and an hour or so later, the popo arrived on the scene. But some say that's not quite how it happened. No, she was not dead at home, says ambulance company owner Walter Schaefer in a new Netflix documentary, The Mystery of Marilyn Monroe, The Unheard Tapes. And this is the Anthony Summers deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of his former drivers, a man named Ken Hunter, had been dispatched to Monroe's home on the night of her death. Excuse me. Schaefer says that the silver screen superstar was comatose but alive when Hunter picked her up and began transporting her to an emergency room in Santa Monica. Writer John Sherlock claims that Monroe's last psychiatrist, Dr. Ralph Greenson, told him years after Monroe's death that she was alive at home and was being transported by ambulance to St. John's Health Center when she died en route. She died in the ambulance, Sherlock says. Then they took her back to her house because they did not know what to do with somebody that famous taking them, Greenson told me that he was in the ambulance, and likely it was probably him that instructed them to take her back. They didn't want her to die like this and whatever, I guess. They needed to figure it out, I guess. Anthony Summers says, what I learned was information that changed completely what we thought we knew about her mysterious death, and suggests that the circumstances of her dying was covered up by Ralph Greenson. For years, those who were closest to the buxom blonde bombshell have not so quietly questioned whether an intentional unaliving, an accidental barbiturate overdose, which has been officially ruled her cause of death, or a politically charged homicide was the true cause of her undoing. In director Emma Cooper's doc, Summers, the author of the 1985 book Goddess, The Secret Lives of Marilyn Monroe, exhumes audio recordings from more than 650 interviews that he had conducted over the decades with Marilyn's friends, co-workers, employees, and co-stars, as well as government officials, to set free the once closeted skeletons of the tortured diva's affections. The tapes I've accumulated while writing the book have never been heard by the public, says Summers. What the evidence suggests is that the circumstances around her death were covered up because of her connection with the Kennedy brothers. In the summer of 1962, when the Cold War between the U.S. and the Communist Soviet Union was at a fever pitch, both RFK and then JFK abruptly ended their supposed simultaneous years-long love affairs with Monroe. At the time, according to his interviews with federal operatives, intelligence agencies feared that Monroe, America's billowing skirt sweetheart, had actually aligned with communist expatriates that were connected to Cuban revolutionary Fidel Castro. and officials who had secretly recorded audio of lusty liaisons between Monroe and the brothers Kennedy. They'd meet up at the Malibu, California house of actor and brother-in-law Peter Lawford. He was married to the Kennedy sister Patricia at the time, worried that the chatty blonde might be sharing government secrets. They feared she learned too much during pillow talk with JFK and RFK.
Yes.
Summers says it is very possible that the Kennedys said, shit, she can make public what we've been discussing nuclear matters, and thought, we got to stop all this. We can't deal with her anymore.
I mean, you saw the document I read. They referenced atomic testing.
Yeah.
So that's not without some legitimacy.
Now, Bobby Kennedy called her the night of her death from Lawford's house, recounts surveillance expert Reed Wilson in the film. Wilson was a revered eavesdropping operative, had been hired by private detective Fred Otash, who was like private detective to the stars back then, right?
Okay.
To keep tabs on Monroe and the Kennedys through hidden electronic devices planted in Lawford's house. Otash, who had worked both for and against the White House, had been commissioned by Teamster Jimmy Hoffa to build a derogatory profile on the brothers. And according to the surveillance tapes, okay, because the way it goes is Bobby Kennedy went over there at like 3:30 p.m., talked to her. They got a giant fight, right? Which was overheard by the guy laying tile in her kitchen. She had sent her whoever else was around home, except for this one Skafuza who's laying tile. Right. And he says he heard all this shit. And she said, don't bother me. Leave me alone. Stay out of my life. Wilson recalls of Monroe's rant. It was a very violent argument, she said. I feel passed around. I feel used. I feel like a piece of meat. Monroe's housekeeper, Eunice Murray, reveals in the documentary that RFK, who reportedly tried to hide the fact that he was in Los Angeles on the night of Monroe's death, even came to the pinup's house. She says the two engaged in a contentious argument just hours before her body was later discovered. It became so sticky that the protectors of Robert Kennedy had to step in and protect him. And the inconsistencies around the time, location, and discovery of her death are just as curious as her sordid relationships with the Kennedys. Credentialed authorities like senior FBI agent Jim Doyle told Summers that the federal officials swooped down on the late star's home long before the local police came in at the reported time of 4:25. I was there, says Doyle, who doesn't reveal what he did on the scene, but the implication is that the feds came in to somehow clean up evidence of RFK's association with the deceased star. There were some bureau people there that normally wouldn't have been there. They came on the scene immediately. Before anybody even realized what happened, it had to be instructions from someone higher up, higher than director of the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover, the attorney general, or the president. Law enforcement informant Harry Hall told Summers that once FBI agents received their marching orders from on high, Monroe's death quickly became a hush-hush matter, not to be discussed in public. The man that was really involved was the boss. He was the Attorney General of the United States, so he'd have the FBI do anything he wanted. People that knew that they didn't want Bobby's name brought into this because his brother was the president. They had done everything to hush this up. Otash recalls Bobby Kennedy commissioning him and Wilson to, quote, have someone go out to Monroe's house and pick up any and all information that was possible regarding any involvement between Marilyn Monroe and the Kennedys. He was convinced there were diaries around and maybe a note. Doyle confirms that records of some sort were removed from Monroe's home. It happened, he says. Despite the Kennedys' questionably close proximity, Summers is almost certain that the 7-year itch star was not murdered. He's convinced she either passed from unaliving herself or an accidental overdose. Quote, I did not find out anything that convinced me that she had been deliberately killed, says Summers. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's what. Go ahead, Joe.
No, I said so. Summers is saying that he hasn't come across any evidence that she was deliberately killed.
Correct.
Okay. Got it. Well,
now there's a document out there, folks. And it looks like this. Kind of, sort of. And it is what is referred to as the Marilyn Monroe UFO document. Specifically, the claims revolve around a document mentioning Project Moondust, a genuine U.S. operation for retrieving space debris, with Monroe's name associated with it. Some speculate this document suggests Monroe might have been privy to classified information about recovered UFOs or extraterrestrial encounters, potentially gleaned from her associations with high-ranking government officials like John F. Kennedy. One document in particular, dated shortly before her death, gained attention and reportedly implies that Monroe was going to hold a press conference to disclose JFK's knowledge of UFOs and aliens. This claim is often discussed in the context of conspiracy theories about government efforts to silence individuals with potentially damaged classified information. It's important to note, however, that the document itself doesn't explicitly mention UFOs or aliens, but uses terms like dead bodies and spacecraft in the context considered ambiguous. The veracity of the specific document and its connection to Monroe has been subject of debate and has been linked to potential hoaxes and misinformation in the past. It's also important to remember that these are primarily theories and claims, and there's no definitive proof linking Marilyn Monroe's death directly to her knowledge or planned disclosure of UFO-related information. So here we have another possible hoax document, Joe.
Yeah. And I think it comes from Scafuza Lawrence Cusack III. Apparently, he forged about 350 documents purportedly linking JFK to Monroe and other claims. So, in all the confusion, you have some Scafuza making up fake documents and
allegedly.
Right. They're not in the FBI reading room.
All right, Joe, let's get to the autopsy now.
Okay. Sure. Why don't you, because people have commented that I am fading into shadows here. I've become a shadow creature due to the sun setting behind me. So I am going to move inside. Why don't you, I have 3 pinned comments here, and look at those, and I will start with that in a second once I move.
All right, let's see. Our boy Lee Harold Oswald, Roger, music man. The housekeeper was a little shady. Yes, she was. And here, I'll get big for you. I get big for you till Joe gets back. Yeah, I think she definitely knew more than she let on. Then we got from Brandon. Very sad and tragic. I didn't know they were gang-R-ing her. Sick fucks. Yeah. These were entitled, rich, famous people that felt like they could do whatever they want to women. I mean, all of these guys, from Giancana, Sinatra, notorious womanizers. Doesn't matter if you were famous or not famous. Even better if you were famous. Because you could tell your boys about that and brag to them, hey, guess what we did to Marilyn Monroe last weekend? You know what I mean? Sick. Trey says, buxom blonde bombshell, triple B. Well, thank you, Trey. I'll take that. Especially the buxom part. I've got great tits. All right, is Joe back
I am.
in the light? Let us see. There he is.
He is. Yeah.
There he is.
So yeah. First, let's check out this picture of JFK and RFK with Marilyn Monroe and her Rob. Fantastic Bristol cities. Do you know what Bristol cities means in Cockney London slang?
No, but I got a good guess.
I think your guess is probably right.
Out here we call them big old.
Yes. Shout out Sally for teaching me Cockney. Yes, Bristol cities, titties, like the second word always rhymes, right?
Yes.
So, of course, this is a famous photograph, so I wanted to show that. So
There once was a man from Nantucket.
So yes, let's get to the autopsy here, and it was done on August 5th, 1962. And the interesting part, which I think the News Nation thing touched on, was that although Noguchi, who was like a 35-year-old at that point, coroner, is that the right word?
He was like a junior coroner.
Yeah. So they gave the case to him, which of course is very sus, according to a lot of people, being such a high profile case. Of course, he would go on, ironically, to do RFK, John Belushi's, a bunch of other people's autopsies. So August 5th.
Coroner to the stars.
Yes. And now we have the office of the county coroner, Los Angeles County. The reason is acute barbiturate poisoning, ingestion of overdose. But what is really interesting about this, Rob, is although Noguchi did it, his boss, right, like wrote the press release and the rest of it. They just had
the narrative. Yes.
Yeah. So anatomical summary. I'm gonna butcher so many words here, Rob. So and chat. So just a little little foreknowledge here. External examination: lividity of face and chest with slight. Oh man, ecchymosis on the left side of the back and left hip. Surgical scar, right upper quadrant of the abdomen.
That's bruising, Joe, for the layman term.
Yes.
Ecchymosis.
Okay, thank you. I did not know that. Ruby, get on the couch. Respiratory system, pulmonary congestion, and minimal edema, liver. And listen, I'm going to skip some of this shit because you don't want to suffer through me butchering all these words. But external examination, this is kind of the summary. The unembalmed body is that of a 36-year-old, well-developed, I agree with that, well-nourished, Caucasian female weighing 117 pounds and measuring 65 and a half inches in length. The scalp is covered with bleached blonde hair. The eyes are blue. The fixed lividity is noted in the face, neck, chest, and upper portions of arms and the right side of the abdomen. The faint lividity, which disappears upon pressure, is noted in the back and posterior aspect of the arms and legs. I'm skipping a few things here.
Well, that would make sense too, Joe, if she died in the ambulance, because likely she is in the ambulance on her back, and then they went back to the house and put her face down on the bed, she would have slight lividity to the back side of her body, but more so on the front, like her chest and face, if she's face down on the bed.
Right. That's a really good point.
I would
Good.
point out too, right above where it says external examination, number 3, congestion and purplish discoloration of the colon would indicate the trauma to her anus.
Yeah. Wow. Good. That's a really good catch by you, sir. The nose shows no evidence of fracture. Okay, so they didn't break her nose. The external auditory canals are not remarkable. No evidence of trauma is noted in the scalp, forehead, cheeks, lips, or chin. The neck shows no evidence of trauma. Examination of the hands and nails show no defects. So she had no nails breaking, no defense wounds, I guess. The lower extremities show no evidence of trauma. The usual Y-shaped incision, body cavity, the usual Y-shaped incision is made to open the thoracic and abdominal cavity. Yeah, I'm skipping that shit. And this goes through the cardiovascular system, the respiratory system, the liver and biliary system, the hepatic and lymphatic system, the endocrine system, the urinary system, and I'm not going to bore everyone with that. But the genital system, let's go to there, Rob. Sorry.
Yes, let's.
The external genitalia shows no gross abnormality. Distribution of the pubic hair is of female pattern. The uterus is of the usual size. Multiple sections of the uterus show the usual thickness of the uterine wall without tumor nodules. That's good. The endometrium is grayish yellow, measuring 0.02 centimeters in thickness. I think that is the pubes.
I think you're wrong there.
Okay, well, no.
Grayish yellow pubes.
Well, I think we'll see. No polyp or tumors found. That's good. The cervix
Polyps.
Polyps. Yeah. The cervix is clear, showing no Nabathian cysts. Oh man, I told you this was going to be a fucking disaster. The tubes are intact. The opening of the fimbria are patent. The right ovary demonstrates recent corpus luteum. Hemorrhagic. Oh my god. This is so bad.
Keep going to the digestive system.
Yes, because this is actually, all jokes aside, this is the important part.
Yes.
The esophagus.
Jesus Christ.
How do you say it?
Esophagus.
Esophagus. Has a longitudinal folding mucosa. The stomach is almost completely empty. That key word there, jokes aside, the stomach is almost completely empty. The contents is brownish, mucoid fluid. The volume is estimated to be no more than 2 cc's. No residue of the pills is noted. Again, no residue of the pills is noted. Very important thing the day after she dies, right?
Yes.
Do we have something go on?
Super chat from the Double B.
Whoa.
Thanks, my brothers. Blessed beyond merit. He got his Double B merch.
Nice.
Hell yeah. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah. Look forward to seeing you repping it soon.
Damn straight.
Let's go back to my butchering of every other word. A smear. Oh, so no residue of the pills is noted. A smear made from the gastric context and examined under the polarized microscope shows no refractile crystals. I have no idea what that means. Refractile crystals. The mucosa shows marked congestion. I think I know what that is. Muscosa. Hemorrhage diffusely. This is horrible. The remainder of the small intestines show no gross abnormality. The appendix is absent. The colon shows marked congestion and purplish discoloration, right? What you were talking about before. The fecal context is light brown and formed. The mucosa shows no discoloration. The pancreas has a tan lobular architecture. Multiple sections show a patent duct. So again, these are just kind of how autopsies read, and I've never read one in the air before. But
Probably never will again.
hopefully not, man. So this is man. That was rough. I apologize to the audience there. I should have practiced that before. But this is kind of the summary. This is by Noguchi's boss, right? Theodore J. Kerfrey, MD, Chief Medical Examiner, Coroner, County of Los Angeles. Now that the final toxicological report, so let's see, this is the 17th. We have this happening on the 5th.
Or toxicological.
Toxology.
Toxicology.
So we have this happening about 12 days later. It's coming back. The final report reveals that the barbiturate previously reported as a lethal dose has been positively identified as Nembutal by the toxicologist. In the course of completing his routine examination, the toxicologist, Mr. Raymond Abernathy, discovered in addition to the Nembutal present a large dose of chloral hydrate. Following is a summary report by the psychiatric investigative team, which has assisted me in collecting this information about the case. Marilyn Monroe died on the night of August 4th or the early morning of August 5th, 1962. Examination by the toxicology laboratory indicates that death was due to a self-administered overdose of sedative drugs. We have been asked as consultants to examine the life situation of the deceased to give an opinion regarding the intent of Miss Monroe when she ingested the sedative drugs which caused her death. From the data obtained, the following points are the most important and relevant. Miss Monroe had suffered from psychiatric disturbance for a long time. We went over this before. She experienced severe fears and frequent depressions. Mood changes were abrupt and unpredictable. Among symptoms of disorganization, sleep disturbance was prominent, for which she had been taking sedative drugs for many years. She was thus familiar with and experienced in the use of sedative drugs and well aware of their dangers. Recently, one of the main objectives of her psychiatric treatment had been the reduction of her intake of drugs. This has been partially successful during the last 2 months. She was reported to be following doctor's orders in her use of the drugs, and the amount of drugs found in her home at the time of her death was not unusual. In our investigation, we have learned that Miss Monroe had often expressed wishes to give up, to withdraw, and to even die. And more than one occasion in the past, when disappointed, depressed, she has made a suicide attempt using sedative drugs. On these occasions, she had called for help and been rescued. I think that happened twice, Rob, when she had taken too many drugs and then called people saying, and they got her stomach pumped type of thing. So,
now real quick, just for everybody knows what we're talking about here. Nembutal, okay, was a barbiturate that acts as a depressant or sedative, supposed to be used short term. That means for a little while, to treat insomnia or lack of sleep. So it was also used as an emergency treatment for seizures and to cause patients to fall asleep for surgery. The chlorohydrate, the other thing that was found in her, is a synthetic sedative hypnotic drug primarily used for short-term treatment of insomnia, anxiety, particularly before medical procedures. It has also been historically used to manage pain after surgery and to treat alcohol withdrawal symptoms. Again, both of these things have been moved away from by modern medicine for safer alternatives, basically. Oh shit. Double B is on fire tonight, boy.
Jeez.
Please remember to keep your trouser mount pointed in a safe direction. Keep it away from your eyes. It's loaded. That's right. You don't want to go blind, folks. Thank you, Brandon. Always a good reminder. Keep your trouser mouser pointed down.
Yeah. Thank you, Double B, again, for the third time. You were the man.
And again, if you're Marilyn Monroe, I doubt you're having trouble getting prescriptions that are supposed to be short-term fixes. Right. You wanted them, especially when Dr. Greenson, and you can be like, hey, man, I need this, I need that. All right. You're paying the doctor handsomely back then.
Yeah.
And again, that could be part of the cover-up here. I mean, with this guy and her dying on his watch is not a good look for Dr. Greenson, especially on the way to the hospital. He was probably freaking the fuck out. And he was like, all right, look, this is Marilyn Monroe. We can't do this. We got to go back to the house. We got to figure this out, figure out what we're going to do, get everything in order before,
right.
We take her to the hospital, before we call the police, before anything happens. We have to be on top of this, publicity wise, figure out what they're going to do, who they're going to call, how this is going to go, what they're going to say, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. I mean, because he could be held liable civilly or even worse.
Right.
Criminally.
Right.
Yes. I mean, both equally as scary to it.
I mean, look what happened to Michael Jackson's doctor. For the propofol stuff.
That's a good point.
So,
let's get our ducks in a row type of thing before we go to the hospital.
Right. Yeah. Is it all just a giant coincidence? Is it, that Robert Kennedy happened to be at her house that day? They happened to get into a huge fight that was caught on the FBI surveillance mics that were set up in her house. Her phones were tapped. And it was all just a big hush hush kind of cover up kind of thing, because they knew they pretty much had to go along with whatever scenario Dr. Greenson presented to the world, because they did not want the truth about, hey, well, Bobby Kennedy was here a couple hours ago. Hey, he called back. Oh, and by the way, here's her diary. And oh, by the way, here's a crumpled up note she had in her hand with the White House phone number on it when she died. These are all things that were alleged to come up missing. Because once Kennedy left, he went back to Lawford's house and he called her back, and she refused to talk to him. And he called back again and was pleading with her, please, you can't do this, blah, blah, blah. And basically she screamed at him and hung up on him again. And, it just wasn't a good look for the country back then to have the president and his brother, the Attorney General of the United States, involved in something this messy, especially when they were there a couple hours ago.
Yeah. in the middle of the Cold War.
Yeah, so you can understand the want and the need for a cover-up in all of this. And to have things a little skewed, if you will. Now, the odd thing is, Joe, the circumstances about this, there's no pills in her stomach, but she ODs on this stuff. There's no puncture marks in her skin. The only trauma to her body is a couple bruises and a very bruised anus, which is sus. So how, if she OD'd, how did she do it to herself? Could she have given herself an enema? A cocktail, an enema cocktail? Yeah. But was this a really big thing that they did back then? I mean, much easier just to swallow a bunch of pills, right?
Much easier.
I mean, you're going to melt these things down in a warm water concoction and, put them in a hot water bottle and squeeze them up your ass. I don't know. I mean, I know coffee enemas are a thing, or at least they used to be. But I just don't know. I don't know.
Oh, coffee enemas used to be a thing?
Yeah.
Can you expand on this?
People pour coffee, hopefully not hot, maybe room temperature, maybe a little warm, like lukewarm. Yeah, they would give themselves a coffee enema.
Right, because the theory is if you do it that way, it hits harder, right? And
apparently, that's the reason. Yeah, the caffeine hits harder. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. That.
And of course, if you take drugs that way, they hit harder.
Yeah, yeah. That is called boofing.
No, it's a personal experience. No. Joe even knows the name of it. What is it?
Boofing.
Okay.
What? I went to music festivals and we would like joke with people because they'd be like, like go roll, but like, do it through your anus, and it hits you harder. And like, I think a couple people ever did it, even did it.
Raise your hand if you think Joe is boofed before.
No, I have not. No, I just heard people messing with people. I'm sure some.
Just watch the chat, Joe. You're going to see a lot of hand emojis in the chat here in just a minute, as soon as they catch up to us.
Oh, now that you've mentioned it, yeah. Yeah, see, south to west, yeah. See, I'm not the only person that knows about this. It's common knowledge. But whew. But
oh yeah, Paula says the coffee enemas were used for weight loss as well.
Interesting.
Caffeine is a natural,
like diuretic or something, whatever they call it.
Well, yeah, that and appetite suppressant,
right?
And it'll flush you out pretty good. Well, of course, any animal will flush you out pretty good, but yeah, I don't know.
Rob, the B&JOEB stands for boofing.
Joey Boofs.
and stay tuned for next week when Rob makes Joey Boof merch for me to make fun of me.
Joey Boof merch.
I try to give some context, and this is what I get here.
Wait till you see the artwork for that one, folks.
Oh no. Yeah, it will be our last day on YouTube. I'll be sure.
Boom. Peach is waving. Boom. Roger's waving. Boom. I love it.
Oh man, yeah. We try to have fun here. All right. Let's for For the information collected about the events of the evening of August 4th, it is our opinion that the same pattern was repeated for the rescue. So again, this is the boss coroner writing this, not Noguchi, which is interesting why you would, again, have your young guy write it, but then you write the conclusion type of thing, the summary. Additional clues for suicide provided by the physical evidence are 1, high level of barbiturates and chloral hydrate in the blood, which, with other evidence from the autopsy, indicates the probable ingestion of a large amount of drugs within a short period of time. Do they realize that the autopsy is conflicting with itself?
Yeah, I mean, there's no proof whatsoever of any pill capsule residue, and there's no microcrystalline structures of these drugs present in the stomach or small intestines.
Right, which we saw Noguchi write.
You found evidence of the drugs in the blood samples.
Right,
So in the bloodstream, not the stomach, which is a problem.
Right, and I'm going back to the digestive system summary here. No residue of the pills is noted in the digestive system. You know, it's kind of sus. And then number 2 they give here, they go, the completely empty bottle of Nebutol, the prescription for which was filled the day before the ingestion of the drugs. So they're saying the pill body was empty, so she had to have taken them, right?
Which screams, hey, this scene was manipulated by Dr. Greenson.
Can't miss number 3.
Like an overdose.
Yeah, 3.
A
The
overdose.
Yeah, 3. The locked. Look how they kind of sneak this in at the very end of the summary. The locked door, which was unusual.
Yeah, because they had to break a window or something to get into the room. Which in and of itself takes anybody else out of the equation. Right? Like nobody else could have been in there with her because the door was locked.
Right.
From the inside.
Right. And on the right side here, they just kind of, I guess this is the test desired, ethanol, barbiturates, and then they kind of inventory the capsules that are left remaining. And if you remember before, they said, there weren't a high amount of these pills around. Like they were consistent with the prescription, I guess is the right word. Like for having filled your prescription recently. But of course, the drama does not end in 1962, August, with her autopsy. Like I showed in 1963, the FBI was talking about article that came out, and this is a document in 64, about a year later, to Director Hoover from Special Agent in Charge, New York. On instant date, captioned and visual advised, he is about to publish a 70-page paperback book dealing with the suicide of actress Marilyn Monroe. The book is titled The Strange Death of Marilyn Monroe and will sell for $2 per copy. He advised that the book will make reference to Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy and Kennedy's friendship with Miss Monroe. He advised that he will indicate that the evidence shows that Kennedy and Monroe were intimate and that Kennedy was in Monroe's apartment at the time of her death. And whether it was the day or the night before or the time, I don't know, but very interesting that they're still keeping tabs on all this. Because if it meant nothing, why? And this is the Scafuza. This is from the AARB. Lawrence Cusack, the late Lawrence Cusack, was a prominent New York attorney in those 50s, 60s, who represented, among other clients, the Archdiocese of New York. The review board received information that Mr. Cusack performed some legal work for Joseph P. Kennedy, that would be JFK and RFK's father, and that Mr. Cusack's son was engaged in an attempt to sell a group of allegedly salacious documents regarding Mr. Cusack's professional but secret relationship with John F. Kennedy. Documents at issue allegedly contained information regarding JFK's relationship with Marilyn Monroe and with various mafia figures. When the media became aware that Mr. Cusack's son was trying to sell the records, they questioned the authenticity of the documents. The media reported that the documents were forged. So I guess that's the guy that that had like those 300 documents that linked Monroe to JFK. So the media reported that they were forged. Were they or were they not? I have absolutely no idea. But very interesting to say the least, Rob. So that is the autopsy,
Yes.
man.
All right, we'll take it back to the book Matrix for Assassination by Richard Gilbride and see what he has to say, and then we'll get out of here. Just a couple interesting things in here. The weekend before she died, Sinatra escorted her up to his Cal Neva Lodge in Lake Tahoe, which he co-owned with Rudin and Sam Giancana, who attended their get-together, among others. Marilyn was drugged into a stupor and gang-ard by several mobsters while Sinatra took pictures for apparent blackmail purposes. On Monday morning, she was flown back home by Sinatra and proceeded to place an 8-minute call to the Justice Department. The BR Fox company had installed the listening devices inside of Peter Lawford and Marilyn Monroe's homes. It was run by a surveillance expert named Bernie Spindell. Not only did he contact with federal agencies, but one of his main customers was RFK's arch enemy, Jimmy Hoffa. Reel-to-reel tapes supposedly existed, which confirmed the affair and also RFK's August 4th visit to Marilyn's home. Spindell claimed these were seized during a 1966 raid by the New York DA's office, in which 28 people were arrested for illegal wiretapping. The DA reported, despite Spindell's subsequent boast, that the tapes were in fact heard by staff investigators and none of the tapes contained anything relating to Marilyn Monroe. Right. Of course they are. They were destroyed after that, so we'll never know the truth. RFK, of course, was a New York senator at this time, if you remember correctly, and no compromising material ever surfaced against him. The Lawford and Monroe bugs were personally installed by Shakedown Freddie Otash, Private Eye to the Stars, which we talked about earlier. And according to James Elroy, author of American Tabloid, after Otash died in 1992, Freddie told me he is convinced that Bobby never had an affair with Marilyn, and that at the time of Marilyn's death, Bobby was interceding on Jack's behalf, trying to get this crazy woman to quit calling the president of the United States at the goddamn White House. She just died coincidentally. Indeed, there was good reason to doubt there was an RFK and Marilyn affair at all. Lawford was the closest and most credible witness, if you want to call him credible, among Hollywood's gold diggers. Ravaged by 1983 from substance abuse, he made his admission to biographer C. David Heyman, an admitted Mossad operative. Yet his last wife, Patricia Seton Lawford, maintained it was a fabrication. So who knows with that? And then he, of course, goes through the cast of characters who were surrounding Monroe at the time of her death, including a Dr. Hyman Engelberg, of course, Dr. Greenson, Ralph Greenson, who was a very suspect in my opinion, handyman Norman Jeffries, who I think this was the guy doing her tile. Yeah, he was retiling Marilyn's kitchen floor that final Saturday morning and essentially remained on her property for the next 23 hours until her body was driven off to the morgue. Yet, he was never questioned by police or the press. Now, in 1993, Jeffrey stated that she had died in her guest cottage and was moved into the house bedroom as a suicide scenario. Ambulances and squad cars arrived at the estate, and a police helicopter landed on the nearby golf course. A dozen plainclothes officers came and left. Ideally, your FBI. Then there was a neighbor, Otto and Hannah Fenicho. Mrs. Murray, the housekeeper. All kinds of crazy stuff happening at the time of her death. And those neighbors were actually, Otto was Dr. Greenson's mentor. And he specifically recommended that Marilyn buy this house because of the close proximity to his mentor, Otto, so it could be close by.
Interesting.
Yeah. Greenson would give nebulous accounts of his activities that night. He is known to have contacted Dr. Engelberg and asked him to come over to give Marilyn an injection. Engelberg said he was unable to. Greenson gave her some kind of a sedative, probably in pill form. We know that ain't true. It is important to note that her last confirmed injection came from Dr. Engelberg around 4 p.m. The Friday before, 42 hours before her autopsy. So she definitely, all the drugs in her system could not be accounted for from that, of course. Okay. Now, in the book Double Cross, okay, this is the book by Chuck Giancana, Sam Giancana's nephew, I believe. Giancana supposedly bragged that he'd sent a 4-man hit team over to Maryland, including the likes of Milwaukee Phil Alderizzo, Leonard Needles Giannona, James Muggsy Tortorella. They listened in with eavesdropper Bernie Spindell waiting for the perfect moment to go after her. Once inside, they taped her mouth shut and proceeded to insert a specially doctored Nembutal suppository into her anus. The deadly wad had been developed by the same CIA chemist who devised traceless poison lozenges for Castro. Interesting. Autopsists Thomas Noguchi and John Miner were long puzzled by the star's death due to inconsistencies between her toxicology tests and the actual autopsy itself, as we've pointed out a lot here. In 1992, Miner came forward and said the abnormal spot of the colon must be explained. Noguchi and I were convinced that an enema was decidedly the route of administration of the mortal drug. I've never seen anything like that in an autopsy. Something inconceivable happened in the colon of this woman. In 2005, Miner stated that Monroe's death came as a result of a heavy dose of chlorohydrate coupled with barbiturates of a massive amount that entered her body through the large intestine. So there you have it from Noguchi's contemporary of the time and what he believed happened. The suppository was supposedly been supplied to Giancana's killers when they arrived in California, obtained by the CIA. Interestingly enough, his conclusion of the orchestrator of all this is none other than James Jesus Angleton, for whatever reason, which would implicate him in the second death, in addition to Mary Pinchot Meyer, and the second taking of a diary.
Right.
In such instances. So interesting. interesting, and there's more in this book, and it goes into a lot more of the theories. But yeah, he claims Angleton was behind it all, and he supplied the lethal enema to members of the mafia at the behest of Sam Giancana. So very interesting. And not too long after Marilyn's death, Sam Giancana would get the hell out of the United States, by the way, and head to Mexico for some 10 years.
Yeah. And
Convenient timing, coincidence, or did he get while the getting was good, if you know what I'm saying? Because he figured maybe this comes back on me. I'm not going to be here to find out.
Yeah. Well,
But
he found out when he got back to Chicago. So,
he did. He sure did.
yeah. It's crazy, man. I didn't think there was that much to this, but after reading the autopsy report and everything we've talked about today with the pills undiagnosed and the anus, which of course is how Borat said it, right? Which I like. And of course the Borat. No, I said Borat. I'm sorry. I was I cut in and out. And of course, this is all coming back in the news because I guess it's the 63rd anniversary of this, and there was a new book, L.A. Coroner Thomas Noguchi and Death in Hollywood, and it touches on, of course, Marilyn. And let me see. During his autopsy, Noguchi, 37 at the time, checked to see if Monroe had been injected with any sort of drugs. Noguchi checked the usual spots: the crook of the elbow, the upper thigh, and fingers, toes. He found none. He pushed aside her platinum blonde hair to examine her scalp. Nothing. After turning her right side up, he turned a tray of tools, picked up a scalpel, and began the familiar Y incision. At the time, Noguchi had noted Monroe had died of an overdose of sleeping pills, a routine suicide. However, alarm bells went off in his head, and quote, when the toxicology results arrived. And of course, like we went over, Rob, the toxicology came in on the 17th, and his autopsy was done on the 5th. So he would have written his report before he got the results back. So
he definitely was Southwest. Old AF.
Yeah.
R.I.P. to Thomas Noguchi.
Yeah. So yeah, we figured that would be a pretty fun show, and not exactly sure what to think, but I think I'm coming off from this episode with a little more susness than I had going into it. I always just kind of waved it away, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the Kennedys were involved in the death. I think it was bad timing on RFK's part to be there the same day she died.
I agree with that.
But I can also see the reason, given the circumstances, to cover this up, and not just cover it up, but bury this shit.
Right.
You know? But I can also see a reason for the people that were at the Cal Naval Lodge, including Sam Giancana, who owned part of it and was there, after doing what they did that weekend tour, you know, they might have felt the need to zip her up. I don't know.
Yeah,
good.
well, I mean, I guess they probably got nervous after that. Like, oh shit, we just like screwed with the most famous woman in the world. Like,
yeah, because if she came out and publicly
right.
said, "Hey, this happened,"
right? So whatever happened in the heat of moment, or whatever their motivations were at the time, like a couple days after, they might have been like, "Oh crap, this is bad," type of thing.
Yeah. After they sobered up, you're like, oh my God,
Right.
what we do?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. So yeah,
Wild
stuff. So thank you, Paula, for the topic recommendation. We hope everyone enjoyed it. It's been a fun 2 hours and 11 minutes. And I'll let you say it.
Get the damn dog, Joe. Ruby. Robert. There she is. All right, folks. For Catskill Joe, Joey Boofs, it's your boy Triple B, Rob Clark. And this has been another exciting episode of the Lone Gunman Podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back sometime soon with another book review and another Wednesday show next week. So be looking out for that. And we thank you guys so much for hanging and banging with us and participating and chilling with us. And thank you especially to Brandon for all the super chats and blessing people with memberships. That's freaking awesome. We
Thank you, Brandon.
We
love
appreciate you. I'm glad you dig the merch. And you got some stuff. And we'll be back for the next exciting edition of JFK Book Reviews before you know it. I know you can't suggest a book. Peace out, guys. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Say bye, Ruby.
Bye.